Hi everyone, Joel Geyer here with Badger Beer Report. We are here in Appleton at Vault 202 Brewery for the collaboration day for our collab for the class of 2025. I am here with Rick. And Rick, how about we start off by introducing yourself and your brewery?
I'm Rick McNabb. I live in Union Grove, Wisconsin, and my brewery is Tailwinds Brewing Company, also located in Union Grove, Wisconsin.
It is. Well, and speaking of, being in Union Grove, you went through a whole new build there. So what was that process like, and what was maybe one or two big surprises along the way?
I learned a lot. It was a good 3 years in planning. We've never done this before. Luckily, we were able to find an incredible architect, an incredible builder, and the equipment supplier that we got for our brew house. They worked all together. All three people worked together to try to put together this Rubik's Cube of a puzzle in building a brewery on a rather small piece of property.
Yeah.
Our builder never built a brewery before, so there's a learning process for them, but it was a great experience all in all. Some headaches along the way, but I think that should be expected. I think we opened up like maybe 6 months after we originally wanted to open up. But all in all, I look back and, I've heard some horror stories where people took twice the time that we took. And, I think one of the biggest hiccups we had is that we got through it. If you want to hear about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we had 2 semis coming full of our brewing equipment, and we had committed to a date. And if we couldn't receive that equipment on that date, the equipment would sit in the rail yards in Chicago at like $400 a day. Okay, so when we were supposed to receive that equipment, they poured our concrete for our drive and all the way around the building just like 4 or 5 days prior. So there's no way we're getting forklifts on there. No way we're getting all this heavy equipment on there. So we talked to the builder. We tried to figure out what we're going to do so we didn't have to pay the $400 a day. A local business by us, a block away, it's a True Value Hardware, Union Grove, if I can throw out their name.
Yeah, absolutely.
They offered to receive our equipment. They used their forklifts. They used their labor. And we stored the equipment up until our concrete was cured, and to be able to move the equipment in there. So we really kind of dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
I don't know what we would have done without them.
Well, and I know that you and I have talked about the Union Grove, that community being pretty tight knit. So like that's one of those opportunities where you did have someone from the community that was able to help. So that is really, really cool.
That's why we love small towns.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they never asked for a single thing. They never said, "Okay, beer's on you." Or anything like that. And it was incredible. It took a good half a day just to unload the trucks, And then the fun part about it is when we're driving our fermenters and our brewing equipment up the road on forklifts on US Highway 45.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Well, and so a big part of your brand, obviously, for people who have not been there, is airline. You worked in the airline industry for many decades. You have tons of airline memorabilia. And I loved walking around with you when I visited, hearing some of the stories behind all of it. Are there any, a couple pieces, 1 or 2 pieces that you would, really like to highlight for someone visiting Tailwinds for the very first time?
Of course, yeah. Our brew pub, we've kind of turned it into a little bit of a museum.
Yeah, 100%.
The Hard Rock Cafe
of the airline
industry. Yeah. And I've collected stuff for many, many years without even really realizing I was collecting it. When my wife and I were talking about, how we're going to decorate the brew pub, we're like, well, let's make it a, vintage airline, a vintage travel type of a space. And so we were able to use a lot of the things that we had at home. I have a little museum at home, and I was able to buy some other unique pieces. Our pride and joy is our American flag that we have hanging over our fireplace.
Yep.
It was nice to be able to build from the ground up and have a fireplace in there for Wisconsin winters. But above our fireplace, we have an American flag that actually came from a Delta 747. It's a beautiful piece. It's got the rivets in there. The neat thing about it, it was Delta's final 747 in their fleet. That they retired, and had a big celebration with employees. There's videos of the celebration online. There's videos of the final landing of the airplane and that. The best thing about it is Delta was the last domestic airline to fly 747.
So you really do have a piece of history.
We do. We have the final domestically owned passenger 747. I've got a United Airlines plaque that's hanging on the wall. It's pretty large. It's the oval, the shield logo.
Yep.
That hung behind the ticket counter in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Up until they changed the logos, maybe 1970, 71. And when they changed the logos, they threw it in the garbage.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. They're just going to pitch it aside.
Yeah, and
Hold on a second.
My dad, who was a customer service agent in Milwaukee at the time, pulled it out of the garbage.
Yeah.
And
now it's hanging up in a tap room in a small part of a grander scale of showcasing a lot of history. So that's something that I love. And you talked also about that you're going to rotate things in. So even if you already been to Tailwinds, eventually you can come back and see something brand new.
Absolutely.
Well, and speaking of seeing things that people may not usually recognize, can you talk just a little bit about the unique way you serve beer and why you chose that?
Yeah, my wife and I were in Scotland several years ago. We went and stopped at the Innocent Gun Tap Room in Edinburgh. And they've got, their beer is served out of these beautiful horizontal jacketed serving tanks. So we took some pictures of it, took some pictures of the label of it, did some research, and these serving tanks are they're pretty. They're pretty to look at.
Yeah,
they're very
they
unique
are
in the brewery, but they're very efficient. So we don't keg our beers. Each one of our serving tanks holds 18 quarter barrels. We have 12 serving tanks, so do the math and think about how many kegs I did not have to buy.
Yeah.
I did not have to store. I don't spend the time having to fill the kegs. I don't spend the time or the chemicals to clean the kegs. I don't dump chemicals down our drain. I don't need CO2 to dispense our beer. There's like a plastic bladder inside these tanks, and we use compressed air outside the bladder to press the beer to the tappers.
Yeah.
So I'm not using CO2 to dispense. I'm not using chemicals or dumping chemicals down the drain. So we're kind of, environmentally friendly in those regards.
Yeah.
And again, they're pretty. And
the
beer,
they are.
From the first drop to the last drop is always going to
Well, they're almost like that's one of the first things, like when someone's walking into Tailwinds, that's almost the first thing that they'll see when they walk in too.
Yeah, they jump out at you and they're like, wow, that's, and there are brew houses behind that. Yeah. And people are amazed, when they hear the story about these things and how efficient they are.
Yeah.
And they're not too common.
No, they're not.
No. I know of one place in Milwaukee's got 6 of them. The only place I know of the States has got 12 of them, like we do, as a bar or as a tap room in North Carolina.
Okay.
But yeah, they're big in Europe. They're getting bigger and bigger in Europe. They're they're efficient.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
Yeah. Well, and I can obviously speak. If you have not been to Tailwinds already, you definitely need to be. If you don't get there before May, make sure that you are at Tailwinds. We will be talking about when we release the collaboration. So yeah, we're really excited. Rick, thank you so much. And cheers, everybody.
Cheers.